The story begins with Christian, a boy who dreams of becoming a great soccer player, just like his idol, Cristiano Ronaldo. His father, George, is in the military and is almost always away on missions, so Christian spends most of his time alone with his mother, Kathleen, who is his biggest supporter. One day, while watching a match on TV, Christian tells his mother that he wants to play like Ronaldo someday. Kathleen encourages him and says that if he truly wants to achieve that, he'll have to work very hard and prove to the coach that he deserves more minutes on the field. But Christian doesn't want to keep being a ball boy. He dreams of playing for the national team. Kathleen assures him that he can become anything he wants, and the two share a warm hug. Shortly after, Christian tries to recreate one of his idol's plays at home. He gets so excited that he accidentally breaks a window. While he dreams of scoring a goal like that in a big final someday, Kathleen is more concerned about the broken glass and asks him to go outside and get the ball. Outside, Christian runs into his neighbor Frank and his sons, Ed and Donald, who snatch the ball away from him. Frank shows up pretending he knows nothing about it and takes the opportunity to ask uncomfortable questions about Christian's father. When Kathleen joins the conversation, Frank boasts that his sons have already made it onto the local team, the Northern Stars, and then makes an awkward comment, implying that Kathleen might need a man around the house while her husband is away. Before leaving, Kathleen asks Frank to take Christian to practice, and he agrees. On the way there, Christian admits that he doesn't like Frank and suddenly grows sad as he remembers his father. Kathleen tries to comfort him and promises that soon his dad will get to see him play. But in the car, Frank and his sons mock Christian's dream, calling him a mama's boy and laughing at his desire to become a soccer player. When they arrive, Frank tosses the ball back at him with contempt, treating him like nothing more than a ball boy. During practice, Coach Dominic mentions that the team needs to change its strategy if they want to start winning. Frank, who turns out to be the team sponsor, insists that any changes must benefit his sons. However, Dominic argues that what the team truly lacks is a striker with real instinct. Although Frank disagrees, Dominic decides to give Christian a chance. The boy steps onto the field full of hope, but despite his effort, he fails to score a goal. That night, Kathleen notices that Christian seems a little discouraged and asks if they didn't let him play again. He tells her that he did get into the game, but he couldn't score. Kathleen tries to lift his spirits and reminds him that there will always be another opportunity. Then Christian asks why some people seem to hate for no reason. Kathleen explains that many times it's because they haven't overcome the bad things they carry inside, and she reminds him of a phrase his father always says, "Never give up, because success is the best revenge." Christian says again that he misses his dad, and Kathleen, her voice trembling, admits that she misses him too. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, George and his unit are going through a difficult moment. Communications are failing, the commander has been wounded, and the situation is becoming more and more dangerous. The next day, Christian trains with his best friend, Julian, the team's goalkeeper. Despite his effort, he struggles to get the ball into the net. On one of his shots, the ball lands in the yard of their neighbor, Bert. Christian apologizes, but the man gets upset about his damaged flowers, and unable to retrieve the ball, the boy runs off. Later, during a local match, Christian once again remains on the bench. The team isn't playing well and concedes several goals. At halftime, Coach Dominic tries to reorganize the team, and shortly after, a penalty kick allows them to score their first goal. Dominic insists on giving Christian another opportunity, convinced that he can bring something extra to the game. Although Frank objects, Dominic calls Christian over and asks him why he believes he should play. Christian tells him that he wants to give his father a reason to come back home, and that answer convinces the coach. Christian enters the match and plays with heart. Even though he doesn't manage to score, his effort helps the team secure a draw. At the end of the game, Dominic congratulates him and tells him he played like a champion. Kathleen also walks over, proudly supporting the coach's words. Before leaving, Frank offers to take them out to dinner, but Kathleen ignores him. That night, Kathleen works from home while thinking about George, still with no news from him. Christian walks into her room to thank her for coming to watch him play, and Kathleen promises she won't miss any of his games. Christian asks if he can sleep with her that night, and she agrees with a smile. At the same time, in the war zone, George's situation gets worse. After trying to help a fellow soldier, his trench is attacked, and George falls unconscious in the middle of the fight. The next morning, Kathleen drops Christian off at school and says goodbye as usual. But on her way to work, she receives an unexpected call. Her husband has been reported missing in action. Still trying to process the news, Kathleen gets into a serious car accident. After school, Christian and his teacher wait for Kathleen, unaware that she has been in an accident. To calm him down, the teacher reminds him that there is an emergency contact listed. Shortly after, Frank arrives to pick him up and takes him straight to the hospital. There, a nurse encourages Christian to be strong before letting him see his mother. Kathleen wakes up when she sees him, and although she is badly injured, she tries to reassure him. She tells him she won't be able to watch him play for a while, but that everything will be okay. They hug, and before saying goodbye, Kathleen promises she will send an angel to watch over him and reminds him that he must always pray. As he leaves the room, the nurse explains to Christian that his grandparents have passed away and that he has no other close relatives, so Frank will take care of him until Kathleen recovers. That night, Frank settles him into a dark, old basement and tells him that the next day they'll buy him new shoes and pick up his belongings. Christian breaks down in tears, saying he wants his mother, but Frank simply tells him to go to sleep. The next day, Frank takes the boys to buy soccer cleats. While he buys brand new shoes for his sons, he asks for something cheap, or even free, for Christian. The store clerk, Mercury, hands him a dirty pair of cleats that arrived by factory mistake. Although Christian doesn't like them at first, he notices a golden shine beneath the dirt and decides to accept them. At practice, Frank mocks Christian and his shoes, even making him trip. Dominic approaches him, shows support for what happened to his mother, but makes it clear that he'll have to earn his spot on the team. Angry, Frank threatens to pull his sponsorship money, but Dominic stands by his decision. At that moment, Christian kicks the ball. The dirt flies off his cleats, revealing a pair of golden boots. At the same time, he scores his first goal, leaving everyone stunned. Later, Julian walks over to encourage him and assures him that his mother will be fine. That night, Christian practices alone and discovers that no matter how he kicks the ball, he always scores. Bert, the neighbor, notices and complains about the noise, but Christian explains that he trains alone because his father isn't there. Although Bert claims he hates soccer, he agrees to help him find a way to practice without making noise. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Kathleen receives support from a kind nurse named Mary, who reminds her that a mother's smile can give her child strength even in the hardest moments. In another local match, Dominic's team is once again in trouble. They're losing and Christian remains on the bench. At halftime, Dominic tells the boys that if they lose that match, they'll be out of the final. Then he makes a crucial decision. Christian will play the entire second half. Frank tries to stop him, saying he's putting too much pressure on the boy, but Dominic believes that playing will help clear his mind. Furious, Frank gives Dominic 30 days to repay all the money he has invested in the team, and Dominic accepts without hesitation. Before heading back onto the field, Julian approaches Christian and asks what it's like living with Frank, describing him as someone who always seems angry. Christian replies that he thinks Frank changed after his wife passed away and that living with him feels sad. The match continues and Christian shines. First, he ties the score, and later he converts a decisive penalty that qualifies the team for the next stage. At the end of the game, a reporter approaches Dominic, who proudly says Christian's name. That night, Christian tries to call his mother from the landline phone, but Frank catches him and, annoyed, orders him to wash the dishes instead. Later, Frank secretly goes down to the basement and tries to steal Christian's golden boots, but the boy wakes up and catches him in the act. Frank quickly lies, claiming he was just going to clean them, and rushes out. News of the team's historic qualification spreads everywhere. After seeing it on TV, Dominic calls Mitch, an official scout from the U.S. national team, and invites him to attend the next match, especially to watch Christian. Mitch agrees. The next day, Frank takes the boys out for burgers, but Christian doesn't want to eat because he misses his mother. Frustrated, Frank tells him that he can't see the person he loves either and forces him to eat, reminding him that he should be grateful. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Kathleen watches a press conference about the military conflict. Mary walks in and turns off the television, and Kathleen confesses that her husband is still missing in action and that she lives every day waiting for news. Then Mary hands her a newspaper. On the front page is Christian, celebrating his team's victory. Emotional and proud, Kathleen tries to call him, but Frank deliberately ignores the call. Later in the next match, Dominic motivates the boys with an inspiring speech, calling them his knights. A news crew even arrives to cover the game. However, during the first half, they concede a goal. Dominic remains calm and gives them a new strategy, this time built around Christian. When the boys return to the field, Mitch, the national team scout, finally arrives. Looking at the scoreboard, he comments that they're down by 1 goal and there are only 30 minutes left. Then he asks who he's supposed to watch. Without hesitation, Dominic points to Christian, number 11. Mitch doesn't look impressed. He says he just came from another match where he wasted his time watching a different kid. Taking out his phone, he makes it clear that he'll only stay if Christian manages to impress him on the field. The match grows more intense as time runs out. With only a few minutes left, Christian scores his first goal, restoring hope to the team. The stadium erupts with excitement, but Christian isn't satisfied. With barely 1 minute remaining, he takes the ball, dribbles past several defenders across much of the field, and scores a second decisive goal. Immediately, he runs toward the camera and dedicates the victory to his parents. Mitch is stunned. He tells Dominic that if Christian keeps playing like that, he'll have real opportunities in the future. After the final whistle, Dominic gathers the boys and shares big news. Thanks to that victory, they've qualified for the regional state championship. To celebrate, he invites them out for pizza. At the restaurant, Frank shows up and, trying to look generous, offers Christian a brand new pair of cleats. Christian looks at them but refuses and steps away from the table, making it clear he doesn't want them. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mary decides to cheer Kathleen up by turning on the news. Once again, Christian appears in the headlines, showing the moment he dedicates the victory to his parents. Kathleen becomes emotional as she sees how much her son has grown, even without her and his father by his side. She tries to call him, but Frank intentionally ignores the call. Later, Christian practices in the backyard to confirm a suspicion. Wearing the golden boots, he scores again and again without missing. Then he takes them off and puts on his regular ones, and can't score even once. Without Christian knowing, Frank watches him from behind the bushes, convinced that the shoes hide something special. That night, Christian prays for his parents and also for Frank. The next day, another match begins, and this one is broadcast live. The opposing team scores first, and the Northern Stars miss a clear opportunity. But once again, Christian steps up. He scores 1 goal, then another, leading his team to yet another victory. As the boys celebrate, Frank watches from the sidelines, visibly upset and increasingly obsessed with the golden boots. As the days pass, Christian keeps appearing in the media. The press calls him the Golden Boy, the kid who led the Northern Stars to the final for the first time in many years. One morning, Kathleen calls the house again. When Christian tries to answer the phone, Frank blocks him and picks up himself. Kathleen asks to speak with her son, but Frank tells her that with the final so close and all the pressure Christian is under, talking to her might affect him. Though heartbroken, Kathleen accepts it and asks him to tell Christian that she loves him and misses him. Just then, Christian raises his voice from the background, saying he wants to talk to his mother. Kathleen hears him and asks if everything is okay, but Frank covers the phone and assures her it's just kids playing. Before he can hang up, Christian recites a family saying over the phone. Frank grows nervous and immediately ends the call. He then confronts Christian furiously, saying he can't believe that after everything he's done for him, this is how he repays him. He even threatens to throw him out onto the street and sends him back down to the basement. Meanwhile, at the White House, the president meets with Margie and her assistant, who present Christian's story to him. They explain how, despite losing his father in the war and having his mother hospitalized, the boy led his team to the final for the first time ever. Deeply moved, the president orders that George be present at his son's match, which will take place in 2 days. On the day of the final, Margie visits Kathleen at the hospital. Shortly after, the president holds a press conference where he shares Christian's story with the entire country. He speaks about his family's sacrifice and the boy's fighting spirit. Then he announces that a search team has been deployed to locate the missing soldiers, and finally reveals the big news. George has been found alive and is on his way home. Kathleen bursts into tears of joy. With Mary's help, she gets out of bed and leaves the hospital, determined to reunite with her family. Meanwhile, Christian finishes getting ready for the match in the basement. When he heads toward the door, he realizes that Frank has locked him in. At the stadium, the team has already arrived, and the match is about to begin. The announcer notices that Christian hasn't shown up and informs the crowd. Dominic, growing more anxious by the minute, scans the area, hoping the boy will appear. Back at the house, Christian bangs on the basement window, calling for help. The noise alerts Charlie, Bert's dog, who runs to get his owner. Bert comes down and discovers that Christian is the one trapped inside. The boy begs him to help him get out. At first, Bert hesitates, but then Christian shows him a piece of paper that says he is his angel. That melts his heart. Without another word, Bert grabs a shovel and begins helping him escape. At the stadium, the match is about to start when Frank finally arrives. Dominic desperately asks about Christian. Frank coldly replies that the boy isn't feeling well and that he gave him some medicine. With no other option, Dominic assumes Christian won't play in the final, unaware that the boy is fighting to get there. After getting him out, Bert asks if he's okay, and Christian tells him that Frank locked him in. Bert immediately understands that the boy needs to reach the game and offers to take him. In his garage, Christian is surprised to see countless soccer trophies and confronts Bert, reminding him that he always claimed to hate the sport. The man finally confesses that he used to be a great soccer player with a promising future. However, after an accident left him disabled, he had to learn how to walk again. He turned his back on soccer because he could no longer play or even bear to watch it. But seeing Christian train day after day with such determination brought back his love for the game. Realizing that Christian is running late, he and Bert rush to the car. At the stadium, the Northern Stars commit a penalty that puts the entire match at risk. Just then, the announcer declares Christian's rival, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Dominic is stunned to see him, and Frank is left exposed, but Christian covers for him, saying he's feeling better now. Relieved, Dominic sends him onto the field to save the game. Christian looks for his golden boots, but they're gone. Panicked, he tells Dominic he can't play without them. Dominic encourages him and reminds him that it's not the boots that play, it's him. With those words in mind, Christian steps onto the field wearing his regular cleats. On his first chance, he misses the goal, but on his second attempt, he scores. For the first time, he does it without relying on the golden boots. He dedicates the goal to Dominic as the stadium erupts with joy. Even Mercury and the hospital staff celebrate in front of the television. George finally arrives at the stadium and reunites with Kathleen. With only 2 minutes left in the match, Christian scores again, exactly as he had promised his mother weeks earlier. With that goal, the Northern Stars win the final, and everyone, especially Bert, feels proud. After the match, Christian congratulates Ed, who apologizes and admits that he stole the golden boots, offering to return them. Christian smiles and tells him it doesn't matter because he has learned that they're just boots. The boys hug and continue celebrating. Christian then runs toward his parents and embraces them with emotion. Frank appears, pretending to be concerned, but Kathleen punches him, leaving George shocked. She promises to explain later. Dominic walks over, greets Christian's parents, and hands Frank the final receipt, officially removing him from the team. Finally, the national team scout approaches Christian and offers him a spot on the team. Christian excitedly accepts, saying it's his dream. Proud, George asks him to go pick up his trophy. The story ends with Dominic and his small team lifting the trophy together, celebrating a victory that goes far beyond soccer. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.